He knew the feeling. The gut punch realization that something he'd poured his heart into, something he'd staked his reputation on, had just failed. Not a gentle decline, not a slow burn, but a full-blown, spectacular implosion. The kind that leaves you staring at the wreckage, wondering where to even begin picking up the pieces. It wasn't the first time. He'd felt the sting of rejection before, the humiliation of public setbacks. But this one felt different. This felt personal. It wasn't just a project gone south, it was a reflection on him. A neon sign flashing the word incompetent across his forehead. The meeting had been brutal. He'd walked in confident, armed with data and projections, ready to present his innovative strategy. He'd envisioned nodding heads, enthusiastic approvals, maybe even a pat on the back. Instead, he was met with skepticism, thinly veiled disdain, and ultimately, a complete dismissal of his ideas. His carefully crafted arguments were dismantled, his expertise questioned, his vision deemed unrealistic. He replayed the scene in his mind, each word a fresh wound. He saw the smirk on his rival's face, the barely concealed disappointment in his mentor's eyes. He felt the heat rising in his chest, the urge to defend himself, to argue, to justify. But he'd held his tongue. What was the point? The decision was made. The opportunity lost. Now, sitting alone in his office, the silence amplified the echoes of the meeting. The weight of failure pressed down on him, a suffocating blanket of self-doubt. He questioned his abilities, his judgment, his very worth. Was he cut out for this? Was he chasing a dream that was always just beyond his reach? He thought of all the sacrifices he'd made, the late nights, the missed family dinners, the constant stress. All for what? To be publicly humiliated? To be proven wrong? To be reminded that he wasn't good enough? He knew the standard advice. Learn from your mistakes. Pick yourself up and try again. Failure is just a stepping stone to success. He'd heard it all before. But in this moment, the platitudes felt hollow, empty. They offered no comfort, no solace. They didn't erase the sting of failure, the shame of defeat. He looked around his office, a space that was once a source of pride, now felt like a prison. The awards on the shelf seemed to mock him, relics of a past that felt increasingly distant. The motivational posters on the wall, once inspiring, now felt like taunts. He felt a wave of anger, a burning resentment towards those who had dismissed him, towards the system that seemed rigged against him, towards himself for failing. He wanted to lash out, to blame someone, to find an escape from the crushing weight of his disappointment. He considered his options. He could quit, walk away from it all, find a safer, less demanding path. He could retreat into his shell, avoid taking risks, play it safe. He could let the failure define him, allow it to erode his confidence, to stifle his ambition. But deep down, he knew that wasn't the answer. He knew that running away wouldn't solve anything. He knew that giving up would only compound the failure, turning a temporary setback into a permanent defeat. He just didn't know how to move forward, how to shake off the negativity, how to regain his focus, how to find the strength to try again. The path ahead seemed shrouded in darkness, filled with uncertainty and potential pitfalls. He was lost, adrift in a sea of doubt, with no compass and no clear direction. He felt trapped, paralyzed by the fear of repeating his mistakes. The weight of expectations, both his own and others, felt unbearable. He needed a new perspective, a different approach, a way to transform this crushing failure into something meaningful, something useful. He needed to find a way to rise from the ashes, stronger and wiser than before. This was the beginning of his real journey. The irony wasn't lost on him. He, who prided himself on foresight and meticulous planning, was now grappling with the chaotic aftermath of unforeseen circumstances. He'd always considered himself a master strategist, a chess player anticipating multiple moves ahead. Yet life, as it often does, had checkmated him with a move he hadn't even considered. He recalled a presentation he'd given years ago, brimming with unwavering confidence, outlining a 5-year plan for his department. He'd meticulously accounted for every variable, every potential obstacle. He'd even created contingency plans for the contingency plans. Now, gazing back, He saw the arrogance in his youthful exuberance, the naive belief that he could control the uncontrollable. A different perspective began to dawn. Instead of viewing the failure as a personal indictment, he started to see it as a valuable data point. An unexpected, albeit painful, lesson in humility. It was a stark reminder that the world doesn't operate according to his plans, that variables are infinite, and that clinging to the illusion of control only leads to frustration. Expanding on this, consider how this applies when you face a critical evaluation. It's easy to become fixated on the feedback, to dissect every word, to internalize the criticism as a reflection of your inherent worth. However, what if you approached it instead as a diagnostic tool? A way to identify areas for improvement, to refine your skills, to become a more resilient and adaptable professional? He remembered reading about a renowned chef who lost his Michelin star after a series of negative reviews. Instead of succumbing to despair, he closed his restaurant, traveled the world, studied different cuisines, and experimented with new techniques. He returned a year later, not only regaining his star but surpassing his previous achievements. His failure became the catalyst for innovation and growth. Another crucial layer is realizing that failure often reveals hidden strengths. It forces you to dig deeper, to tap into reserves of resilience and creativity you never knew you possessed. It exposes your vulnerabilities, yes, but it also illuminates your capacity for adaptation and reinvention. Conversely, think about the athlete who suffers a career-threatening injury. The initial reaction is often devastation, a sense of lost potential and shattered dreams. However, many athletes use that setback as an opportunity to focus on other aspects of their lives, to develop new skills, to pursue passions they had previously neglected. They discover that their identity is not solely defined by their athletic prowess, that they have a wealth of other talents and interests to explore. Now, consider how this applies when you face a personal crisis, like a relationship ending unexpectedly. The temptation is to dwell on the pain, to blame yourself or your partner, to wallow in self-pity. Yet, what if you use that time for introspection, to understand your own needs and desires, to identify patterns in your relationships, to cultivate self-love and independence? It could be a painful experience, but it could also be a transformative one. He started to view his failure as an opportunity to recalibrate his priorities, to align his actions with his values, to live a more authentic and meaningful life. It was a chance to shed the weight of expectations, to embrace vulnerability, to pursue his passions with renewed vigor. He began to see the wreckage not as a graveyard of shattered dreams, but as a fertile ground for new beginnings. Reflecting on this journey so far, it becomes evident that the narrative isn't simply about encountering setbacks, but about the alchemy of transformation. It's about how the crucible of adversity can forge a spirit tempered by resilience and wisdom. We've traced the arc from initial shock and disappointment to a burgeoning understanding of inherent strengths and the acceptance of impermanence. This is not merely a story of bouncing back, it's an exploration of inner recalibration. Imagine a tapestry, intricately woven with threads of ambition, aspiration, and meticulous planning. Now envision that tapestry disrupted, a significant portion unraveling, leaving a gaping void. The immediate reaction might be despair, a sense of irreparable damage. However, with a shift in perspective, that void becomes an opportunity. It's a chance to weave in new threads, to experiment with different patterns, to create a design that is not only more resilient but also richer in texture and depth. The original plan may be irrevocably altered, but the resulting creation can be something far more profound and meaningful. Drawing these interwoven ideas together, we see that the desire for control, while a natural human inclination, can often be a source of profound suffering. The world, with its inherent unpredictability and chaotic nature, rarely conforms to our meticulously crafted expectations. True strength, then, lies not in attempting to dominate external circumstances, but in cultivating an inner landscape of adaptability and acceptance. This is not to advocate for passive resignation, but rather for a more nuanced and strategic approach to life's inevitable challenges. Consider the analogy of a river navigating a rugged terrain. The river does not attempt to obliterate the mountains or flatten the valleys. Instead, it adapts to the contours of the landscape, finding the path of least resistance, yet persistently flowing towards its ultimate destination. Similarly, in the face of adversity, we can learn to navigate the obstacles that life throws our way, not by resisting them with brute force, but by flowing around them with grace and resilience. In light of these insights, the path forward becomes clearer, though not necessarily easier. It is a path that requires courage, introspection, and a willingness to embrace vulnerability. It is a path that demands we relinquish the illusion of control and cultivate an unwavering faith in our own capacity for adaptation and growth. It is a path that ultimately leads to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. The final reckoning isn't about what happened, but what we make of it. As we pivot toward the final reflection, let us consider the cumulative effect of these experiences. They are not isolated incidents, but rather interconnected threads that weave together to form the fabric of our lives. Each failure, each setback, each moment of adversity contributes to the richness and complexity of our personal narrative. It is through these challenges that we truly discover who we are, what we are capable of, and what truly matters to us. The anticipation is not for a simple resolution, but for a deeper understanding of the transformative power of embracing our imperfections and vulnerabilities. He understood now. It wasn't about avoiding the fall, but about mastering the art of the landing. Life, in its relentless and unpredictable nature, would inevitably present moments of upheaval, times when the carefully constructed edifice of plans and expectations would crumble. The true measure of a person wasn't in their ability to prevent these collapses, but in their capacity to navigate the aftermath with grace, resilience, and a profound sense of inner calm. The pursuit of control, he realized, was a fool's errand. The world was a chaotic and ever-changing landscape, a swirling vortex of unforeseen circumstances. To cling to the illusion of control was to invite constant frustration and disappointment. True power resided not in dominating external events, but in mastering one's internal response to them. It was in cultivating an unwavering sense of equanimity, a steadfast inner compass that remained true regardless of the storms raging around. This wasn't a call to passive resignation, to a life devoid of ambition or aspiration. It was a call to a more nuanced and strategic approach, one that acknowledged the inherent uncertainties of life while simultaneously embracing the potential for growth and transformation. It was about setting goals, pursuing dreams, and striving for excellence, but doing so with an awareness that the path would inevitably be fraught with challenges and setbacks. He pictured a seasoned sailor navigating a turbulent sea. The sailor couldn't control the wind or the waves, but they could adjust the sails, steer the ship, and navigate the currents with skill and precision. They understood the power of adaptation, the importance of remaining flexible and responsive to the ever-changing conditions. Similarly, in the journey of life, we could learn to navigate the storms, not by attempting to control them, but by mastering the art of adaptation and resilience. The failures, the setbacks, the moments of profound disappointment, these weren't signs of inadequacy or defeat. They were opportunities for growth, catalysts for transformation, invitations to dig deeper and discover hidden reserves of strength and resilience. They were the raw materials from which wisdom was forged, the trials that tempered the spirit and refined the character. The true practice begins now, not in some distant future, but in the present moment. It's in the conscious choice to embrace vulnerability, to relinquish the illusion of control, and to cultivate an unwavering sense of inner peace amidst the chaos of life. It's in the willingness to learn from mistakes, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to emerge from adversity stronger and wiser than before. The journey is ongoing, the challenges are inevitable, but the potential for growth and transformation is limitless.